Under the red sky, rain falls relentlessly. Amid the devastation, Ronin struggles to stand, using his sword for support. Everyone around him is dead. As Ronin rises to his feet, he realizes that countless comrades have fallen in battle. Unable to accept this reality, he curses in frustration. At that moment, he hears a voice accusing him of being careless. Startled, Ronin turns around, remarking that it never expected to encounter such a powerful human on Earth. Enraged by the fact that the creature, Ahyuti, is still alive, Ronin grips his sword tightly. Ahyuti is a massive otherworldly being with 4 wings and 4 horns. The giants known as Ahyuti appeared in the Empire 20 days earlier and wreaked havoc for unknown reasons alongside 3 other giants. After countless battles, only Ahyuti remained, and now even he is on the verge of death. Ronin stomps on Ahyuti and declares that because of him, half of the Empire has turned into a vast cemetery. Despite this, Ahyuti assures Ronin that he will not live much longer and will soon return to the side of a certain individual. Ronin coldly responds that it is fitting, as Ahyuti's companions who died before him will be waiting there as well. Confused by Ronin's mention of companions, Ahyuti listens as Ronin explains that he is referring to the other 2 giants who came with him. One was transformed into a fire giant due to a hot-tempered red dragon, while the other was sealed for eternity by an old man named Lorhan. Ronin curses Ahyuti, asking if he finally understands. In response, Ahyuti tells Ronin not to hide the truth behind empty words and reveals that the children of the stars share their senses with one another, meaning they already know that the other giants and their opponents were annihilated together. Hearing this, Ronin clicks his tongue in irritation. Ahyuti continues, stating that this means powerful individuals like Ronin no longer exist on Earth. Ronin bluntly replies that he is still alive, prompting Ahyuti to warn him not to become overconfident, as his time is nearing its end. Ahyuti admits that he is relieved, because had Ronin realized his potential earlier and devoted himself fully to training, he would have become a serious obstacle to Ahyuti and their long-cherished ambitions. These words infuriate Ronin, eventually leading him to confess that even without Ahyuti saying anything, he knows he has lived a deeply flawed life. After this admission, Ahyuti praises Ronin as a remarkable human, stating that it is acceptable for him to feel pride. However, he warns that the human world will soon be engulfed by starlight and vanish entirely. Immediately after those words, Ronin takes down Ahyuti with a single strike. With sorrow-filled eyes, Ronin quietly asks what Ahyuti expected him to do about events that have already occurred. At that moment, he hears a voice calling out for help, saying that she cannot move due to her injuries. Recognizing the voice instantly, Ronin searches desperately and realizes with relief that she is still alive. Despite his wounded body, Ronin finally finds her and expresses his happiness that the Grand Commander survived. However, his relief turns to shock when he notices that her right arm has been severely injured. Her name is Adeshan. Ronin comments that for someone who holds such a high command position, Adeshan is in extremely poor condition. Hearing this, Adeshan responds humorously, saying that Ronin is only a corporal, so he is not particularly impressive himself. She then asks whether Ahyuti is dead. Ronin confirms that he killed him. Upon hearing this, Adeshan feels relieved and begins to sob as she thanks Ronin repeatedly. He quietly watches her cry and then smiles, suggesting that if she is truly that grateful, she should listen to his request. Ronin expresses regret over wasting his days by fooling around, which left him unable to accomplish much, and he feels it is unfair that he is now facing death. Adeshan softly asks what Ronin would do if, by some chance, he were to survive. Ronin smiles and says there are many things he wants to do, but as he looks up at the sky, he admits that the only thing he can think about right now is wondering what it would have been like to attend the academy. Adeshan is confused by this, so Ronin explains that Ahyuti's final words have been troubling him. More importantly, his late sister's wish was for him to attend the academy. However, those wishes and emotions will never be fulfilled, as Ronin believes he will soon be reunited with his family. Adeshan hurriedly tries to speak, hoping to give Ronin a reason to hold on. She tells him that a search party will arrive once the rain stops. Ronin responds that he already told her he is a lost cause and asks why she keeps saying things that will not change anything. Suddenly, something unexpected occurs. Both Ronin and Adeshan notice that the rain abruptly stops, and an overwhelming surge of energy fills the area, triggering a violent earthquake. Ronin looks up at the sky in shock and sees an enormous creature with 8 wings, accompanied by several 4-winged creatures. Ronin stands up, wondering where these creatures crawled out from. Adeshan is equally shocked and terrified as she realizes that the 3 giants were not the end of it. She comes to the devastating conclusion that for the 3rd time, she has failed to save the world. Now she has only one chance left, yet she cannot think of any possible way to succeed. As despair overwhelms her and she feels herself giving up, Ronin's voice snaps her back to reality. When she opens her eyes, Ronin tells her to pull herself together and urgently instructs her to use telekinesis or any other ability to launch him into the air, as his sword cannot reach the enemies from the ground. Adeshan is stunned by his words. Seeing her hesitation, Ronan asks whether she intends to let the giant creatures live. While stammering, Adeshan asks if Ronan is truly planning to fight them in his current condition. Ronan shouts back, confirming that he is going to fight and asking whether she plans to just sit there and wait for death. He draws his sword and declares that even if he dies, he will at least deal some damage to those creatures. Adeshan's eyes widen in disbelief as she watches Ronan refuse to give up, even in such dire circumstances. She realizes that this is the kind of man he is, and that is why they managed to come this far. This realization makes her believe that if it is Ronan, then perhaps something can still change. She stands up, feeds Ronan a glowing blue orb, completely catching him off guard. Shocked, Ronan demands to know what thing did he just ate. Ignoring his question, Adeshan whispers something into his ear. Still in disbelief, Ronan asks what she could possibly be saying at a time like this. Adeshan smiles and tells Ronan that if they meet again, he must tell her not to do anything reckless and to become a tailor instead. She admits that she has done many things in her life, but nothing quite like becoming a tailor. At that moment, the eight-winged creature prepares to unleash an attack that neither of them can avoid. Suddenly, Ronan sees the glowing blue sphere once more. When he awakens, shouting the Grand Commander's name, he finds himself standing in an entirely different environment. As Ronan looks around, he realizes in disbelief that the place he is in is none other than his hometown, Nibutan. Ronan has returned to the past. After returning to the past, Ronan sits beneath a tree, realizing with disbelief that Grand Commander Adeshan's words were truly correct. He recalls the moment when, only for her to whisper that what he swallowed was an orb capable of turning back time. She revealed that this was how she, once merely a tailor, managed to rise to the position of Grand Commander. Although the orb allows a person to regress up to 4 times, she had already used it 3 times, leaving only one remaining chance. That was why she entrusted the survival of humanity to Ronan, believing that he possessed the power to slay the giants. She was convinced that Ronan was the key to preventing the destruction of the world. Adeshan then whispered that Ronan needed to hone his abilities, adding that she was glad he also possessed the desire to grow stronger. Upon hearing this, Ronan shouted that he was only speaking without thinking, but Adeshan ignored his protest and continued. She told him that if he truly wanted to learn, he must go to Philion Academy, a place filled with outstanding individuals. She was certain it would greatly benefit him. Thinking about all this overwhelms Ronan, causing him to grow frustrated as he shouting that if this is a dream, he needs to wake up immediately. The people nearby watch him nervously, unsure of what he is doing. Even if this situation is real and Ronan has truly returned to the past, he wonders what he is supposed to do all on his own. When the realization fully sinks in, Ronan grabs a stick lying nearby and begins running, hoping he might be able to see his older sister. He runs through the crowded streets with a smile on his face, thinking that if he has truly gone back in time, then he will finally be able to meet her again. However, Ronan suddenly notices a group of delinquents bullying a boy and stops in his tracks, wondering why they are hanging the boy upside down, and begins walking toward them, remarking that these people have not changed at all, even in the past. As Ronan gets closer, he is shocked to realize that the boy is not hanging by a rope, but by magic. Someone with magical talent was a rare sight, even on the battlefield, so there was no way such a person should be found in a rural town like this. Ronan suddenly remembers that this was the time when they were here as well. The magic is being cast by a pink-haired boy who looks terrified. He is panicking, wondering how long this will continue, fearing that something terrible will happen to the boy at this rate. Meanwhile, the boy hanging upside down is crying and begging the bullies to stop, insisting that he truly has no money. Soon after, the golden-haired bully shifts his attention to the pink-haired boy and orders him to lift the brown-haired boy higher, all the way to the top of the tree, since he still has not paid any money. Hearing this, the pink-haired boy is shocked and nervously protests, saying that he cannot do that. He explains that if he lifts the boy any higher and loses control by accident, the boy could die. He threatens the pink-haired boy to shut up and do as he is told, warning that if he refuses, Asel will end up hanging beside the brown-haired boy. The pink-haired boy, whose name is Asel, becomes visibly terrified upon hearing those threatening words. This makes Asel question why things have turned out this way, causing him to wonder whether it was wrong for him to learn magic when all he wanted was to prove that he was good at something as well. Asel wants to tell the golden-haired boy that he cannot do it anymore, but he is too terrified to even speak. Overwhelmed by fear, Asel begins to cry while forcing himself to talk, and just as he is about to beg the golden-haired man to stop, Ronan suddenly steps in. Ronan strikes Asel on the head with a stick, snapping it as he shouts for him to stop, warning that the brown-haired boy will die if he continues. After being hit, Asel loses control of his magic, causing the brown-haired boy to crash into the ground. Seeing this, the bullies react immediately, and the golden-haired man turns around in anger, shouting at Asel and demanding to know what he thinks he is doing. He yells at Asel, furious. The golden-haired boy marches toward Asel, while Asel nervously tries to explain that he did not do it on purpose. At that moment, Ronan steps forward to shield Asel and tells him not to worry about trash like that, instructing him instead to focus on Ronan. Ronan states that he has something to discuss with Asel now. While the golden-haired man continues shouting angrily, Ronan ignores him and calmly asks Asel where he learned telekinesis magic. Asel nervously explains that he learned it from a grimoire he purchased from a traveling peddler. Ronan is surprised to hear this and finds it impressive that Asel has achieved such proficiency using such an inexpensive grimoire. Ronan finds it remarkable, knowing that with more observation, he will understand even better, especially considering what awaits when he eventually confronts the giants. While Ronan is lost in thought, the golden-haired boy suddenly draws a real sword. Hearing the sound, Ronan turns around in surprise and realizes that the golden-haired man is holding an actual weapon. Enraged, the golden-haired man demands to know whether they dare to ignore him. He remarks that Ronan seems overly confident simply because the golden-haired boy intentionally lost to him in the past, but declares that today he will correct Ronan's attitude. With that, the golden-haired boy charges straight toward Ronan, who calmly waits for him. Ronan notices that the golden-haired boy is wielding a long sword and wonders where he obtained it. Despite that, Ronan observes that the attacker's stance is poor. While raw strength might work against ordinary people, it will not work against Ronan. He effortlessly dodges the attack, shocking the golden-haired boy. Although Ronan's body is younger now, the combat instincts ingrained in him during his time as a disciplinary soldier remain unchanged. The golden-haired man smiles coldly and says that Ronan was lucky, claiming that he was planning to make sure Ronan would never be able to lift even a spoon again. Ronan responds calmly that he knows he is lucky today, even though he has been unlucky his entire life. Since things have escalated this far, the golden-haired man smirks and tells Ronan to kneel, promising to spare his life. Ronan touches his own neck with a cold expression, saying he is very afraid. The golden-haired boy continues, threatening that if Ronan is killed, he will make sure to take care of Ronan's sister. Hearing this, Ronan's anger erupts, and he demands to know if the man is talking about his sister. The golden-haired man confirms it, making disrespectful remarks about her appearance. At that instant, Ronan completely loses his composure and injures the man's ear in a single motion. The golden-haired man screams in shock, dropping his sword as he realizes his ear has been injured. The other three bullies freeze in terror at the sight. Ronan steps closer, calls him an idiot, and coldly asks whether he wants to die. Seeing the golden-haired boy crying while clutching his wound terrifies the other three bullies, especially after realizing that Ronan injured the golden-haired man's ear using nothing more than a branch. None of it makes sense to them. Ronan then calls out to them, asking why they are just standing there watching. He repeatedly kicks the golden-haired boy and warns the others that if they do not want to end up like him, they should immediately take him and leave. Ronan further threatens them, demanding that they also leave behind all the money they obtained through their scam, along with some extra compensation for putting him in a bad mood. Terrified, the three bullies immediately agree and hand over all the money they have. After collecting it from the scammers, Ronan gives the entire amount to the brown-haired boy, telling him that it all belongs to him. Holding the large bag of money, the brown-haired boy stammers in disbelief, asking if Ronan is really giving him everything, especially since it is far more than what was originally taken from him. Ronan tells him it is fine to keep it, explaining that he is already satisfied with the long sword. He then reassures the boy not to worry about revenge, saying that those bullies will not even be able to lift their heads again. Hearing this, the brown-haired boy immediately thanks Ronan for helping him. Ronan waves his hand and tells the boy to stop thanking him and go home quickly. Suddenly, Asel nervously speaks up to get Ronan's attention. Hearing his voice, both Ronan and the brown-haired boy turn to look at him. Asel nervously apologizes to the brown-haired boy and begins to cry, saying that he knew he should not have done it no matter how much Hans threatened him, but he was too scared to resist. He continues crying, blaming himself and repeatedly apologizing. Seeing this, the brown-haired boy takes a deep breath and smiles, remarking that Asel has been crying like that ever since the first time Hans dragged him there. He adds that Asel cried the same way the first time he was pulled into this situation, and when he saw Asel back then, he felt that they were in the same position. Asel listens quietly with tears filling his eyes, but the brown-haired boy places a hand on Asel's shoulder and tells him not to blame himself too much, explaining that he knows it is not Asel's fault. Still, he thanks Asel for apologizing. After that, the brown-haired boy bows and takes his leave, while Asel waves goodbye. Ronan watches this exchange, then exhales quietly, thinking that Asel might not be such a bad person after all. Ronan approaches Asel and asks if he remembers when Ronan said earlier that he had some business with him. Asel becomes flustered when Ronan touches him and quickly responds that he remembers. Ronan turns around, saying that is good, and starts walking away, telling Asel that they will meet again in 3 days. Hearing this confuses Asel, so he asks Ronan what he means by that. While walking away, Ronan waves his hand and says that he is busy right now and that they will meet then, adding that it would be better if it is when the moon rises. Ronan suddenly draws his sword and glares back at Asel, warning him that he knows what will happen if Asel does not show up. Asel becomes terrified at the sight, and Ronan starts running off, calling out that he is leaving first and that Asel should not be late. After Ronan disappears, Acel stands there wondering what that was all about. The scene then shifts to Ronan standing nervously in front of his home, wondering whether the flowers he picked might be too much. He remembers that his sister liked them, so he cut the stems the way he had seen before. Still unsure, Ronan mutters to himself and decides to throw them away. However, as he speaks out loud, the door suddenly opens and his sister steps out, saying she was wondering who was standing outside, only to realize it is Ronan. Startled, Ronan quickly turns around as his sister asks if he is coming inside. During Ronan's time as a disciplinary soldier, he thought thousands of times about what he would say to his sister when he finally saw her again. He wondered whether he should apologize for leaving without a word or tell her how much he missed her. He replayed these thoughts endlessly, but those were words that only Ronan, the disciplinary soldier, could say. Now, in the present, with his sister standing right in front of him, there is only one thing Ronan can bring himself to say. Ronan's sister comments that he is home early today, and those simple words make Ronan feel warm inside as he quietly replies that he is back. Later, at the dining table where the food has already been prepared, Ronan's sister is visibly surprised. She admits that she never thought she would live to see the day when her cold brother would give her flowers. Ronan's older sister's name is Iris. She looks genuinely happy as she receives the flowers, which makes Ronan nervous as he tells Iris that he is glad she likes them. Iris affectionately calls Ronan her cute little brother and asks whether he has eaten enough or if he would like more stew. Ronan feels grateful, yet awkward, because she is fussing over him so much. Ronan then asks Iris about her age. She tells him that she is 22 and asks why he suddenly wants to know. Ronan replies that he simply forgot, which shocks her, and she scolds him, saying that it is not something he should forget. Iris stands up from her chair and asks if Ronan's head hurts or if he might have a fever. As she speaks, Ronan is lost in thought, realizing that if Iris is 22, then there are about 10 years left before the giants invade. Iris places one hand on Ronan's head and the other on her own to check his temperature, only to conclude that he does not have a fever. Watching her, Ronan thinks that, just as he remembered, his sister Iris is still bright, kind, and warm. The moment makes Ronan wish that time could stop, but he knows that in about 10 years, in order to protect this world and his sister, he must take action. Ronan suddenly grabs Iris's hand and says that he has something important to tell her. Confused, she asks what it is, and Ronan reveals that he is thinking about entering the academy. Hearing this, Iris becomes overjoyed and bursts into tears, asking him to say it again. Ronan confirms that he truly means it. Iris responds that Ronan never listens to her whenever she brings it up. Immediately after, she rushes off excitedly, saying she does not have time for this and begins searching for something. She cheerfully says that she always knew this day would come because Ronan is very smart and will excel at anything he does. Ronan nervously thanks Iris, and soon she returns holding a large pot. She happily tells Ronan that it is a gift for him. When Ronan looks inside, he is shocked to find a large amount of money. He asks how she managed to save so much, and Iris explains that she had been secretly saving it to surprise him. If Ronan ever changed his mind about attending the academy, she wanted to be ready to support him immediately. Ronan praises her, saying how amazing she is, and asks when she managed to gather all of it. He tells her that he truly appreciates her kindness, but insists that she should use the money herself, as it still would not be enough. Confused, Iris asks what Ronan means, explaining that this is more money than it looks like, and that even if she does not know which academy he plans to attend, it should be sufficient. Ronan interrupts her and reveals that he wants to enroll in the Imperial Institution, Philion Academy. Hearing this, Iris is utterly shocked and lets out a loud cry. The Imperial School, Philion Academy, is the Empire's most prestigious educational institution. It boasts the continent's most outstanding professors, and with the Imperial family's immense financial support, it provides the finest education available. Its reputation is so great that it is often referred to as a factory of heroes, and its status stands above all others. Grand Commander Adeshan, Swordmaster Shulafin, the infamous Winter Witch, and even figures once considered the Empire's worst criminals all graduated from Philion Academy and proved invaluable during the war. They were so influential that Ronan now understands why Grand Commander Adeshan specifically mentioned the academy to him. However, with such high entrance standards and overwhelming tuition fees, gaining admission is no easy task, even for those with talent. After packing everything needed for his journey, Ronan walks through the forest while thinking about his sister Iris's unexpected reaction. Even she was unsure whether Ronan would be able to enter the academy. Eventually, Ronan reaches the place where he is supposed to meet Acel and stops, intending to show Iris the results later. Before anything else, Ronan tells Acel that he is surprised to see him there, as he did not expect him to show up. Ronan mistakenly calls him Acel, prompting Acel to correct him nervously and say that his name is Acel. Acel then explains that he came because Ronan threatened that he would not leave him alone if he failed to show up. Ronan smiles and tells him to forget about that, explaining that they will be very busy tonight and that there is something he wants to test. Ronan throws off the backpack he was carrying, and Acel, confused, asks what kind of test Ronan is talking about. Ronan interrupts him, saying it is nothing serious. then points to himself and instructs Acel to use telekinesis on him. Ronin asks Acel to lift him as high as possible. Acel is confused and asks why Ronin suddenly wants him to use telekinesis on him, nervously expressing concern about how dangerous it might be. Ronin reassures Acel that it is not dangerous and insists that Acel do exactly as he says. Ronin confidently states that he will not die from it, so there is no reason to be afraid. After hesitating, Acel reluctantly agrees and begins using his magic. Invisible hands lift Ronin into the air, raising him higher and higher. As Ronin experiences the sensation of flying midair, he realizes that it feels even better than he expected. Although the height and stability are still lacking, the feeling reminds him of the past. During his battle with Ayudi, it was telekinesis magic that allowed Ronin to fight on equal footing with the giant. Ronin smiles as he looks at Acel, silently praising him. Telekinesis is an extremely rare ability, even among mages, who are rare to begin with. This means that Acel will become a crucial asset in Ronin's future battle against Ayudi. Ronin thinks that this is a promising start. However, Acel soon becomes exhausted and informs Ronin that controlling the power is becoming difficult, asking him to come down. Hearing this, Ronin draws his sword and tells Acel to hold on a little longer, explaining that there is one more thing he wants to test. Ronin claims that he will come down on his own, which surprises Acel, who asks what Ronin means and how he plans to do that. Ronin then swings his sword with all his strength, striking directly at Acel's magic and dispersing it. Acel is shocked to see that Ronin has just break through his mana. Ronin lands safely on the ground, and Acel nervously asks what Ronin just did. Ronin casually explains that it is nothing special and that it is simply an acrobatic technique he has been able to perform for a long time. Frustrated, Acel asks what Ronin means by calling it an acrobatic move, since it is the first time he has ever seen someone break through mana itself. As Acel continues rambling, Ronin lightly stomps on his head and tells him to drop it, admitting that even he does not fully understand why it works. Ronin then sheaths his sword, thinking that uncovering the true nature of this ability is just another assignment added to the long list of tasks he now needs to complete. And the reason Ronin's sword was able to work on the giants may also be connected to this. Ronin believes that these things might all be linked together. However, he can think about this slowly later, because right now there is something he must do. Grabbing the second backpack, Ronin tells Acel that he has passed the test. He then throws the backpack to Acel, telling him to hold it and follow him, because there is something they need to do before the moon disappears. Acel asks what they could possibly need to do so late at night. Hearing this, Ronin smiles and comments that this might become the first page of Ronin's biography, the Empire's greatest history book. After walking through the forest for a while, Ronin explains his plan to join Philion Academy to Acel. Even then, Acel finds it hard to believe and asks again whether they are really going to Philion Academy, a place reserved only for the Empire's elite. Ronin confirms that he heard correctly and tells Acel that there is no need to keep asking the same question, as it is becoming annoying. Ronin then asks whether Acel does not want to go to the academy. Acel replies that this is not the issue and awkwardly explains that Ronin has talent in martial arts, so it makes sense for him. But Acel believes that he himself does not know how to do anything and is cowardly and timid. Hearing this, Ronin's expression changes as he calls out to Acel and asks whether he truly wants to continue living like that. Ronin tells him that with his innate talent, he is only wasting it by obeying idiots, and asks whether that is really the life he wants. Acel tries to deny it, but Ronin interrupts, saying that Acel has many foolish sides to himself. He points out that Acel is not only cowardly and timid, but has also become someone who cries easily and fears everything. Ronin bluntly calls him a loser who is afraid of everything. Those words strike Acel deeply, but Ronin continues, saying that even so, it is fine, because Acel can still change from now on. However, Ronin warns that time continues to pass and cannot be reversed, and one day Acel will regret it, just as Ronin regretted his own past life. Ronin places his hand on Acel's shoulder and asks if he truly wants to change. Acel feels overwhelmed, realizing that Ronin is genuinely worried about someone like him. Ronin then tells Acel that he will not force him, since it is Acel's life, and he can turn back if he wants to. After saying this, Ronin starts walking away, explaining that he is busy. Suddenly, Acel shouts nervously for him to stop, saying that he wants to change too. Acel decides to go to Philion Academy with Ronin and begs him to teach him what he needs to do. Hearing this, Ronin smirks and turns back, his expression shifting as he comments that this is the first time Acel has acted manly. Ronin then asks whether they should begin the first hurdle for the great Acel. Fully motivated, Acel immediately agrees, so Ronin turns around and starts walking again, smiling as he thinks that everything is going exactly as planned. However, when Acel reaches their destination, he is shocked and asks Ronin if that really is his first hurdle. With a straight face, Ronin confirms that it is indeed Acel's first challenge. The best opponent Ronin could find to draw out Acel's abilities is a lunar goblin, and not just any goblin, but the leader of its troop. Ronin then cheerfully asks Acel what he thinks about this great hurdle. Acel's expression clearly shows shock and disbelief. Ronin then orders Acel to begin. Lunar goblins are a type of goblin that commonly appear in this region. Most people differentiate them from ordinary goblins by their yellow skin and disfigured bodies. However, the true defining trait of lunar goblins is their obsession with gold and other treasures. They are known to ambush merchants, steal valuables, and then gather all the stolen goods in one location to hold a festival on a night with a full moon, just like today. After Ronan explains all of this to Asel asks whether that is the reason they are here. Ronan agrees, stating that they are going to steal all of that treasure tonight. While spying on the sleeping lunar goblins, Asel tells Ronan that he has never heard of goblins gathering their treasure in one place to hold a festival, and asks how Ronan knew about this. While unpacking the bags, Ronan replies that he has his own ways. Ronan cannot tell Asel that he witnessed this in his past life while wandering the land. Ronan then pulls Asel into a firm embrace and instructs him to use his telekinesis to move all the treasure into the bags while the lunar goblins are asleep. Ronan comments that it is very simple. Asel responds that it does not seem simple at all, explaining that he might make a mistake, wake them up, and that things would go terribly wrong. Asel nervously tells Ronan that this plan is far too dangerous and that they should rethink it. This angers Ronan, who bluntly calls Asel a coward. Ronan tells him to listen carefully, explaining that they need two things to enter Philion Academy. The first is money, because they must afford the Academy's extremely high tuition fees. The second is real combat experience. While money is a major issue, real experience is even more important, especially since Philion is filled with aristocrats who have received elite training since birth. Ronan asks Asel if he wants to compete against people like that, and if he does, there is only one way to do it. That way is to gain experience by risking their lives, and lunar goblins are the perfect opponents. By completing this task, they will gain both money and experience, accomplishing two goals at once. Seeing Asel's reaction, Ronan asks whether he is wrong or if Asel has a better idea. While sobbing, Asel admits that he does not have any other plan. With that, Ronan decides to proceed. He gives Asel a light pat on the back, signaling him to begin immediately. After some time, Asel successfully uses telekinesis to steal the gold from the sleeping lunar goblins. Slowly but surely, all the treasure is transferred, and Ronan fills every bag. Ronan pats Asel happily, reminding him that experience truly is the best teacher. Asel agrees that the plan worked. In truth, Ronan had not expected Asel to adapt so quickly, which makes him realize that Asel is more capable than he initially thought. As Ronan pats him, he smirks, thinking that he has found a very useful companion. Once all the bags are full, Ronan begins closing the backpacks, signaling that it is time to leave. Sitting on the ground, Asel asks whether they are really finished. Ronan confirms that there is nothing else to do and urges them to leave before anything goes wrong. Suddenly, the scene shifts to two individuals wearing the same uniform as they chase a blue, glowing bird through the forest. They shout at the creature, ordering it to stop, and cause a loud commotion near the lunar goblin's hideout. Ronan and Asel clearly hear the noise. Ronan grows irritated, questioning why those people are causing such a disturbance in the middle of the night. The shouting wakes the lunar goblins. Their leader looks toward the treasure, wondering about the noise, only to freeze in shock upon discovering that the treasure chest is empty. The leader shouts about thieves, waking the rest of the goblins, who panic when they realize their precious valuables are gone. Looking around, they spot Ronan and Asel trying to escape. Ronan immediately realizes the situation has turned bad. The enraged lunar goblins charge at them, causing Asel to scream in fear. Ronan throws aside his backpack and draws his sword, stating that he expected something like this to happen, but things had been going too smoothly. Asel desperately asks what they should do and suggests abandoning the bags and running away. Ronan refuses, stating that without the money, there is no way they can pay the Academy's enormous tuition fees. Even that explanation is not enough to calm Asel, who believes that surviving is more important at the moment. As the lunar goblins draw closer, Asel shouts that they are already upon them. Ronan grips his longsword, forged from cheap steel, judging that with its weight and durability, it can withstand about 15 strikes at most. Unfortunately, there are around 30 lunar goblins. 3 of the goblins rush toward Ronan. Seeing this, Asel panics and warns him to watch out. In response, Ronan swings his sword, easily taking down all 3 in a single motion. Asel stares in shock as Ronan calmly remarks that there are now only 14 left. Crows caw from the trees as the lunar goblins are swiftly defeated by Ronan. After finishing the last one, Ronan calmly comments that the battle was not bad. Asel, who witnessed the entire fight, is left in complete amazement, finding what he saw almost impossible to believe. Ronan took down 3 goblins in a single frontal strike, and when the remaining group rushed toward him, he vanished for a brief moment and reappeared instantly. In the blink of an eye, he took down the goblin leader as well. Asel never imagined Ronan could create such an overwhelming display. Ronan then turns around and glares at Asel, asking why he is standing there, completely spaced out. Startled, Asel quickly apologizes. Ronan tells him there is no need to apologize and urges him to hurry up and gather their belongings because they are leaving immediately. After packing everything and resuming their journey, Ronan rubs his shoulder, commenting that the fight was more tiring than expected. He had assumed they would travel comfortably, but nothing ever goes exactly as planned. Ronan thinks about how his shoulders are already sore from dealing with the goblins and wonders if it is because he is still growing. With that thought, he resolves to train his body even harder from now on. Asel then asks about the terrifying shriek that had woken the lunar goblins earlier. Ronan replies that he does not know the exact reason either, recalling how they suddenly heard loud shouting while stealing the gold. He mutters that those people caused unnecessary trouble by screaming in the middle of the night, and if he ever finds them again, he will make sure they regret making things so difficult. Suddenly, an arrow is fired toward Asel. Both Ronan and Asel sense it at the same time, but Ronan reacts instantly, grabbing the arrow in midair before it can strike Asel. Asel stares in shock at the arrow in Ronan's hand and asks where it came from so suddenly. Ronan irritably comments that this forest must be cursed, given how many reckless people seem to be wandering around. It soon becomes clear that the attackers are the same two individuals who were earlier shouting while chasing a glowing blue bird. Upon realizing that Ronan and Asel are human, and kids at that, the two men smile. Being called kids makes Ronan visibly frustrated. The two men approach them, apologizing while glancing at the bags of gold, explaining that they heard rustling sounds and assumed it was a monster. They even joke among themselves that they were nearly responsible for harming someone. The black-haired man steps forward and asks if they are injured, extending his hand. Ronan immediately stops him, stating that their explanation is nonsense and pointing out that their expressions give them away. The two men look confused as Ronan sharply tells them to stop pretending and answer honestly, demanding to know who they are. Their expressions shift upon seeing Ronan's serious gaze. The black-haired man laughs and walks closer, claiming that he forgot to introduce himself properly. Without warning, he silently draws his weapon and announces that they are members of Caliboro before attacking Ronan. Upon hearing the organization's name, Ronan grabs the man's wrist mid-attack and strikes him, sending him staggering back. The golden-haired man, frustrated, rushes toward Ronan, but Asel quickly intervenes by using his telekinesis to restrain him. The golden-haired man freezes in place, shocked to realize he cannot move at all. Seeing this, Ronan turns to Asel and compliments him. He then forces the golden-haired man to drop his weapon, picks it up, and creates distance. Confused and panicked, the golden-haired man asks who Ronan really is, but the next moment he collapses, defeated. Asel trembles and asks if the man is dead. Ronan confirms it, asking why he would spare someone who tried to kill them, especially someone affiliated with Caliboro. Asel is horrified to hear the name. Caliboro is a notorious organization known for poaching, kidnapping, regarded as one of the Empire's most dangerous criminal groups. Ronan explains that if he had not acted, Asel might have been captured and never seen again. Letting members of such an organization live, Ronan says, would be a crime in itself. Suddenly, one of the bags belonging to the two men begins to move. Ronan tells Asel to stop panicking and collect the supplies, but the bag suddenly lifts into the air, startling both of them. Ronan turns sharply, demanding to know why the bag is moving. Asel explains that the men were carrying it before they were stopped. The two cautiously approach the bag, with Asel wondering if it contains a poached animal. Ronan replies that they will find out once they open it. When Ronan loosens the bag, glowing blue eyes shine out from within. The creature bursts free and takes flight into the air. Watching it hover, Ronan tilts his head and wonders aloud what kind of strange bird it could be. The bird has blue feathers. Seeing it, Asel happily tells Ronan that it is his first time seeing a blue bird. Ronan, slightly confused, comments that it is also his first time seeing one. He then notices the shackles on the bird's feet and wonders if they are Caliboro's magic restraints. Caliboro's poaching shackles are artifacts that disrupt the captive's mana and restrict movement. Ronan thought they were only used in rare cases or when capturing fantastical creatures, so he assumes that this blue bird must be one of them. While Ronan is still explaining this, a magic circle suddenly appears and asks for a response, announcing that the connection has finally been established. Asel is startled and becomes frightened, leaning toward Ronan and shouting that the bird just spoke. Ronan, annoyed, asks if Asel truly believes that and explains that it is simply communication magic. Ronan then reasons that since contact was established immediately after the bird was released, the bag they found likely had a mana-blocking function. Ronan starts walking and comments that the person on the other end is probably the bird's owner. The voice hesitates before confirming this and introduces himself as Varen, a researcher of fantastical beasts at an institution. Varen explains that the blue bird's name is Marpez and that he is its owner. He adds that no matter how many times he tried to communicate before, it never worked, and he was about to file a report, so he is extremely relieved now. Varen then apologizes and asks for Ronan's name. Without revealing it, Ronan replies that they are righteous passers-by who encountered poachers while traveling. He explains that the poachers had taken Marpez, and he simply states that they rescued the bird. Varen is shocked to hear that Marpez was kidnapped, admitting that the thought crossed his mind, but he never expected it to be true. He expresses deep gratitude and says he is unsure how to repay Ronan. Meanwhile, Asel remains captivated by Marpez's beauty. Ronan tells Varen there is no need for repayment, but asks how they should return Marpez, as the bird looks exhausted from being restrained. Ronan asks if removing the shackles will allow it to fly properly. Varen confirms that it will, and explains that Marpez has a strong homing instinct, so once freed, it will return on its own. Ronan draws his sword and strikes the shackles. Marpez is startled at first, but quickly realizes the restraints are gone. Ronan sheaths his sword and tells Marpez to return home and stop worrying its caretaker. Although Ronan speaks with a stern expression, to Marpez he appears like a heroic figure who just saved it. Suddenly, Marpez does something unexpected. Ronan becomes irritated. Varen explains that Marpez wants Ronan to pluck one of its feathers before it leaves, as it seems to wish to meet him again. Varen adds that dream bird feathers have a special trait. The feather can guide the bird back to its location, much like a compass. He asks if Ronan has taken one and invites them to visit the institution in the future if they wish to see Marpez again, promising to repay the favor then. Marpez takes flight and quickly disappears into the sky. Afterward, Asel notices something on Ronan's head and asks what it is. Ronan touches it, saying it stings slightly, but then looks at his hand in shock and asks what it could be. A few days later, they arrive near a town, where a mercenary is inspecting a jewel. After examining it carefully, the mercenary comments that it is an incredible object and offers Ronan 20 gold coins for it. The person is the owner of the Carabel merchantry, Duan Carabel. Duan comments that today must be his lucky day, as he never expected all the items Ronan brought to be of such great value. He admits that he never thought he would be able to assist such a valuable customer. Ronan smiles and replies that he has finally met someone who understands. He then explains that all the other merchants were trying to scam him by offering pennies for such valuable goods, which had made him extremely frustrated. To think that he finally found such a conscientious merchant makes Ronan feel that all his walking around was worth it. Happily, Ronan shakes hands with Duan. Duan laughs and says he is honored to hear that. He then asks if there is anything else Ronan would like to have appraised besides the items already shown. Hearing this, Ronan reaches into his pocket and asks if it is possible to appraise another item. He clarifies that he does not plan to sell it and is simply curious about what it is. The object looks like an egg, shaped and colored like a galaxy. Ronan explains that the blue bird, the dream bird Marpez, left it behind that night. At first, Ronan thought it had left something unpleasant in his hand, but that was not the case. Feeling annoyed, Ronan tested it by throwing it against a boulder, only as a test, of course. Through this, he discovered that the object was incredibly tough, as it shattered the boulder into pieces. Ronan does not know whether it is a bird's egg or something else, but since it came from such a rare fantastical creature, he believes it could be a valuable treasure. After examining it for a while, Duan laughs and admits that he does not know what it is, but agrees that it is certainly an unusual object. Because of that, Duan suggests that Ronan take it to a specialized appraiser. Ronan lets out a breath and decides to do so, as his curiosity is growing and he cannot bring himself to sell it yet. After that, Ronan asks Duan if he sells books about Filion. Duan asks if Ronan means Filion Academy. Ronan confirms that they are planning to take the Filion entrance exams, but they do not know much about them. Duan smiles and comments that it is good timing, as they are also applicants. He then reveals that his daughter will be taking the Filion exams as well, and he believes she could help them. Duan adds that she should be back by now. As he says this, Duan's daughter walks in and notices her father talking about her. She asks what is going on and who the people with him are. Duan tells Ronan that she has arrived and introduces her as his only child, Maria. Ronan is visibly startled and looks confused upon hearing her name. Duan instructs Maria to greet Ronan and his cell properly, explaining that they are important people with whom he has just completed a major deal. Maria asks if that is really true, commenting that they look very young. Hearing this, Duan becomes upset and scolds her for using such language. He then apologizes to Ronan and Asel, explaining that Maria grew up in the merchant world, which is why she speaks so bluntly. Asel responds that it is fine and that he does not mind, then turns to ask Ronan if he is alright as well. Ronan ignores this and steps closer to Maria. Asking if she truly is the Maria who uses the middle name Senator Maria confirms this, but asks how Ronan knows about it. Ronan comments that she really does resemble someone he knows. He then signals for her to come closer and lend him her ear, saying that he has another question to ask. Although confused, Maria leans in and asks what he wants to know. Ronan quietly whispers to her. She becomes furious. The very next moment, Maria slaps him while angrily scolding him. After taking the slap, Ronan realizes that the sensation feels exactly the same as that person Count Maria Senator back when Ronan was a disciplinary soldier in a place called Marlin. Maria was in charge of supplies. With a strong work ethic and an easygoing personality that allowed her to get along with anyone without hesitation, Maria was an impressive individual. However, whenever conversations about men came up among the soldiers, Maria would become unusually angry and had a habit of slapping people. At the time, Ronan was curious about the reason behind it and wanted to ask her when he met her again, but the opportunity never came, as Maria passed away before Ronan did. To think that Ronin found the answer to his long-standing question here means that Count Maria was actually a woman. Filled with anger, Maria sees Ronin laughing and asks if that was not enough, then charges at him, saying she will hit him again. Ronin stops her by pressing down on her head and tells her to calm down, stating that she is acting recklessly just because he allowed her to hit him once. Ronin explains that he allowed the first hit because he was in the wrong, but he will not allow it again. The moment he says that, Maria becomes even angrier and strikes him on the head again, asking what would happen if she hit him twice. The two of them end up fighting intensely while Estelle and Duan watch in shock. Both of them shout for the two to stop. They hurry over to separate them, and a short while later, Estelle is left completely confused, wondering what is wrong with those two. Just moments ago, they were fighting as if they could not stand each other, and now they are calmly getting along while appraising longswords and other weapons together. Maria counts 3 swords and a magic wand, then asks why the attackers left Ronin and Estelle with 3 swords, even though it would have been difficult for them to carry all of them. Ignoring that question, Ronin asks if it is fine since he tends to use swords rather roughly, then asks how the weapons are overall. Maria replies that they are not bad at all, but points out that the black iron sword is the best among them. She explains that black iron is quite sturdy, which makes it a valuable material, and that renowned knights often seek swords made from it. Maria then hands the sword to Ronin, telling him that she does not know how roughly he treats his weapons, but this black iron sword will not break easily. After learning that it is a black iron sword, Ronin comments that it was his favorite type of weapon in the past. Maria then examines the wand, noticing that it has a high-quality magic stone embedded in it. She turns her attention to Estelle, and Maria asks what type of magic he uses. Feeling embarrassed, Estelle admits that he uses telekinesis. Hearing this, Maria compliments him and tells him that if he performs well, he might even qualify for a scholarship. Estelle smiles and asks if that is really true. Maria then looks at Ronin and says that now he is the main concern. She asks what kind of technique he plans to show the instructors during the practical exam. Ronin looks confused upon hearing about techniques. Maria asks if he truly does not know, then explains that in order to enter Philion Academy, applicants must pass a practical exam where they need to impress the professors by demonstrating their techniques. The theory exam is quite difficult, but it is not as challenging as the practical exam. It is said that if an applicant performs well in the practical, they will pass the exam. In other words, if Ronin does not demonstrate his worth, he should forget about entering the academy. Ronin takes a breath and remarks that a swordsman should only need to be skilled in swordsmanship. He then asks Maria what applicants usually demonstrate during the practical. Maria explains that most nobles showcase their family's secret techniques, while martial artists and other applicants demonstrate their personal mana combat techniques. Ronin is surprised to learn that children of that age can use mana even if they are not officially mages. Maria, confused, asks what he means, explaining that at Philion, students are expected to do exactly that. One must consistently sense their own mana and apply it in combat, the very foundation of martial training. However, for Ronin, this is unfamiliar. He does not understand what Maria is talking about. She asks if he does not even know how to sense his own mana. Ronin shrugs and comments that it seems similar to using aura. Maria is shocked and dismayed, realizing she is speaking to someone who believes that aura and mana are the same, yet plans to enter Philion Academy. Ronin, noticing her reaction, asks why she is making such a fuss. Maria stands up, commanding Ronin to step outside immediately. He asks why she suddenly insists on this, but she ignores him and grabs 2 swords, asking if she can borrow them since she left her own at the blacksmith. Ronin becomes angry, questioning whether she is confident enough not to damage them. Maria reassures him, promising that she will finish before anything happens, and if the swords are damaged, she will compensate him 3 times their value. She then tells Ronin to stop talking and follow her, explaining that she will give him special training. Maria begins to explain. Mana is the root source of natural power. Like air, it exists everywhere in the world. However, that does not mean anyone can use it. To harness mana, one must sense and feel their own energy, a skill known as mana sense. Reaching this stage depends on training, innate talent, and personal effort, but it typically takes about a year to begin sensing mana. Philion's prospective students have long surpassed this stage. After mastering their own mana techniques, they apply to the academy. After explaining this, Maria asks if Ronin understands the concept of sensing mana. Ronin does not even know the difference between mana and aura, yet he wants to enter Philion, which baffles Maria. She agrees that while aura is a type of mana, the difference between them is as vast as the sky and the earth. Ronin, surprised, asks if it is really that different. Maria continues, explaining that even those whose talent has been recognized train for a minimum of 10 years and, through relentless effort, barely achieve enlightened innate power, which is called aura. After finishing her explanation, Maria asks if Ronin understands a little. Ronin, still confused, replies that he understands just a little. He recalls encountering aura users on the battlefield, who would brag about their powers and use unusual techniques that were both impressive and annoying. Though, in the end, they could still be defeated. Maria completes her explanation and asks if they should begin training, noting that Ronin will learn faster through action rather than theory. With that, she charges at Ronin, and their swords clash. Maria and Ronin clash their swords, and the moment their blades meet, Ronin realizes just how talented Maria is. Despite her young age, she exerts tremendous power and is skilled in dual wielding. He cannot tell from the clash whether her style involves mana or not, but her strength and precision are undeniable. Meanwhile, Maria herself is astonished. She had planned to finish Ronin in a single strike, fully confident that she could demonstrate the power of mana and make him give up the test. Instead, she finds herself being pushed back and wonders if this is the skill of someone who supposedly cannot use mana. During their sparring session, Maria swings her sword with all her strength, deeming the situation impossible. Ronin, bouncing her back with a precise counter, instructs her to dodge instead of block on his next attack. Startled, she instinctively evades the strike, landing safely and exhaling, commenting that hesitating would have been disastrous. She smiles at Ronin, acknowledging that he is truly exceptional. Ronin smiles back, saying the same goes for her. Ronin sheaths his sword and tells Maria that, aside from mana, she is naturally talented with a blade. However, her center of gravity is slightly off, and if she corrects it, her skill will improve immensely. As he starts to leave, Maria, confused, asks where he is going and points her sword at him, challenging him and asking if he thinks he has won. Ronin ignores her and reminds her to honor her promise to pay threefold if the sword breaks. At that moment, the sword cracks and shatters into pieces, shocking Maria. She asks, bewildered, when it happened, and Ronin turns to her, telling her to prepare the sword's replacement cost. Asel arrives and calls out to Maria, complimenting her for her efforts. He can somewhat understand what she must be feeling in this moment. Ronin, exhausted, begins walking and tells Asel to hurry. Asel runs to catch up, while Maria wondering who Ronin and Asel really are. The next day, the merchants prepare to depart, packing their goods. Ronin visits Maria to collect his payment, but she hands him something extra, a stack of books. Along with the money, Maria gives him Philion theory workbooks and summaries she prepared. She smiles, asking Ronin if he really needs them, given that only 1 month remains until the exam. Ronin confirms that he does, but he questions why she has gone to such lengths. Approaching her with his sword, he jokes that if she plans to trick him, it will be useless. Maria reassures him that she has no such intention and explains the real reason. She has taken a liking to them and wants to help them succeed. She smiles, emphasizing that this is a free service, offered to ensure they all pass. Asel beams at the gesture, and Ronin accepts it gratefully, impressed that it is free. Maria had intended to teach Ronin personally, but due to their departure schedule, he will need to study independently. She warns that if he fails after receiving all this, she will not let it slide. Ronin, amazed by her dedication, reminds her that she must pass the exam as well. After finishing their preparations, they watch as Maria departs in a carriage, waving goodbye and promising to see them in the capital on the day of the exam. Maria also instructs Ronin to make sure he reads through all the books she gave him. Asel waves back at Maria happily, while Ronin reflects that he needs to train his weak body and study, two things that have never gone smoothly for him. But despite the struggle, it's not an unpleasant feeling. Ronin begins walking, and life after returning home settles into a familiar routine. He eats with eye roll, and seeing how well he devours his meals makes her extremely happy. He eats until his stomach is nearly bursting each time. Fueled by the calories, he hunts monsters on the outskirts of the village, gradually increasing his stamina and adaptability. He continues until there are no monsters left nearby. Alongside this, he dedicates time to studying, a task unimaginable for a former disciplinary soldier. Yet no matter how much he studies, he struggles to memorize the eating etiquette of the North. Despite the uncertainty of the outcome, he perseveres, and finally, a month passes. They reach the main stage of the story, Valen, the capital city. At its heart stands the Empire's premier educational institution, the White Tower's small city. Asel is awestruck by the beauty of the capital, complimenting it as a masterpiece and feeling incredibly motivated. Ronin interrupts him, asking what he's doing standing in the middle of the street, and scolds him to stop and hurry inside, or they'll be late for the exam. Flustered, Asel instantly turns back and apologizes, but he flinches, which confuses Ronin. Asel explains that he's just fascinated by how much taller Ronin has grown in only a month. Hearing this, Ronin tells him to stop talking and punches him lightly in the face, urging him to hurry inside. As they walk, Ronin thinks that since they are now in Philion, they might get a chance to meet Sword Saint Schlieffen. A descendant of the prestigious Grancia Swordsman family, Schlieffen is a genius considered the strongest in the Empire. Being the same age as Schlieffen, Ronin wonders if they might cross paths during the exam, though it doesn't concern him much. Suddenly, Asel asks if Ronin has that thing. Ronin, confused, asks what he means. Asel clarifies that he is talking about the feather of the dream bird they saved, the feather that is supposed to lead them to its owner. Ronin pulls out the feather, explaining that he packed it before leaving because he remembered the old man lived in the capital and had planned to visit him after the test. Unexpectedly, the feather begins to move, pointing them toward the highest floor of a nearby building. Meanwhile, inside an office, the old man sighs, telling Marpez that being a professor has been difficult and wonders if he should return to research. Marpez chirps, and the professor smiles, asking if the bird is cheering him on. He pats Marpez, who clearly enjoys it, and resolves to continue teaching to repay the hero who saved the bird. The professor is Filian's zoology professor, Varan Fanashir, a warlion by nature. He begins walking to open a window for ventilation, thinking about what he would do if their hero arrived today. He is shocked when he opens the window to see Ronan smirking outside, commenting that he didn't even knock, yet the window opened. Marpez and Varan are both startled, but Ronan recognizes the blue bird, Marpez, from before and asks Varan if he is its owner, and a werewolf at that. Their terrified screams echoed throughout Filion that day. In shock, Varan asks Ronan about his identity and how he managed to come through the window, especially from one of the top floors. Ronan, acting as casually as ever, comments that they scared him, saying he thought he was going deaf. Acel adds that's why he suggested taking the stairs. Varan, however, is bewildered and anxiously asks if they are here for Marpez. But Ronan shows them the feather, prompting Varan to ask if they are the heroes. After calming down, Varan apologizes. Sitting on the sofa, he tells them to forget about it. Ronan replies that he already said it's fine, so there's no need to keep repeating it. He continues, jokingly pointing out that if anyone is to blame, it's Acel, since he climbed through the window. Acel, confused, explains that it was Ronan who told him to use telekinesis because the stairs were inconvenient. Hearing this, Ronan smirks and messes with Acel's face, telling him to keep quiet. More importantly, Ronan remarks that this situation wasn't what he had imagined. He never expected that the owner of the bird, a werlion, a rare type of werhuman, would also be a professor at Filion. Varan smiles, admitting that he too was confused to think that their heroes were merely entrance applicants. Varan adds that he's disappointed. Had he known beforehand, he would have prepared a recommendation. But since the exam is today, all he can do is hope they succeed. If they fail, he promises to help them next time. Ronan comments that it's an unlucky thing to say and rummages through his pocket. He reassures Varan that it's fine and explains that he has something to ask. Since time is limited, Ronan pulls out the egg-like object and shows it to Varan. Varan is shocked at first, but upon closer inspection, he realizes it is a dream bird egg. Grabbing the egg, Varan asks if Ronan means that Marpez laid it. Ronan, confused, asks what's wrong and wonders if it's really so surprising that a bird laid an egg. Varan clarifies that Marpez is not just any bird, it's a dream bird. More surprisingly, Varan has no idea what will hatch from the egg. Ronan is perplexed, arguing that by common sense, a bird egg should hatch a bird. Varan explains that dream birds are different from ordinary birds. Depending on the surrounding environment, a dream bird will absorb unique mana and produce an egg accordingly. For instance, in a lava-filled area, a phoenix wrapped in flames may hatch. In a monster's nest, the hatched dream bird may resemble a monster. In some cases, it might not even resemble a bird at all. Varan continues, bragging that by analyzing the mana emitted from an egg, one can often predict the form the dream bird will take. However, this particular egg contains a myriad of mana, making its eventual form entirely unpredictable. It's a bit embarrassing for Varan to admit, but at this moment, he cannot say with certainty what exactly this egg is. Ronan, with a mildly surprised expression, comments that Varan is placing so much meaning on a mere egg. He then turns to Marpez, asking where the bird had been wandering to lay an egg like this. Varan interrupts, asking if Ronan would be willing to look after the egg. Ronan confirms that he doesn't mind, but he asks if Varan would really be comfortable with him taking care of something so precious. Varan admits that it is indeed very precious because a dream bird only lays one egg in its lifetime. However, the fact that Marpez laid this egg in front of its heroes suggests that the bird felt something special. Marpez chirps happily upon hearing that. Varan explains that he wants to respect his friend Marpez, with whom he has spent so much time, and so he will leave the dream egg in Ronan's care. Ronan accepts, claiming that he is also curious to see what will hatch from it. He then stands, saying it's almost time to leave, as they have completed what they came to do. Seeing this, Varan asks them to wait for a moment. He stands and searches for something, explaining that he had been thinking about what to give Ronan and finally came up with a great idea. He hands Ronan a scroll, revealing that it will assist him with hatching the egg. Both Ronan and Acel are visibly confused. Sometime later, in the practical testing hall of Galleon Castle's main building, all the martial arts applicants are seated in the waiting area. Some pray, some inspect their weapons, and others prepare mentally. The instructor announces that the exam for applicant number 111 has concluded, and now it is applicant number 112's turn. Nervously, the next applicant stands and enters the room. Ronan, seated nearby, thinks to himself that after applicant 112, it will finally be his turn, though they are making him wait far too long. He glances at Maria, who sits next to him, and asks if she feels the same. Maria replies that the exams always run this way. Ronan then questions why she is wearing such an uncomfortable outfit. Maria smirks, explaining that she paid extra attention to her appearance because Philion is a private academy attended by nobles. They might become valuable clients in the future, so she ensures she doesn't look shabby. Ronan acknowledges her effort with a smile. Maria sighs softly, commenting that it would have been nice if their dear Isel were here. Ronan replies that there is nothing they can do, as the magic testing hall is located elsewhere. He adds that he would be glad if Isel is not crying by himself. The instructor announces that the exam for applicant number 112 has concluded. The applicant emerges, looking utterly exhausted and thinking he is doomed. The instructor then calls applicant number 113 to enter. Ronan realizes that it is finally his turn. Maria encourages him to stay calm and do his best, warning that if he fails, she won't let him off easily. Before entering, Ronan waves at her, assuring her that he already knows and thanks her for the heartfelt support. Ronan tells Maria that he will be back and steps into the room, standing before the professors of Philion. He notices that they all carry an extraordinary presence, but the old man in the center, Krava Kurtir, the headmaster, and the woman beside him, Navy Rose, stand out even more. Ronan rarely felt such intense vigor, even in his past life. Navy Rose is the swordsmanship instructor and holds the title of Grand Sword Saint. Ronan bows respectfully and introduces himself. Krava greets him in return and introduces himself as well. He then explains that Ronan will be practicing against a magically engineered dummy to demonstrate his technique, and asks what Ronan has decided to show the professors today. Ronan replies modestly that it's nothing special, just a fast and clean strike. He reaches to unsheath his sword, noting that this should be sufficient for a dummy. The professors react with surprise. Krava and those seated beside him are intrigued that Ronan plans to demonstrate a simple strike without using any mana. The golden-haired professor whispers to a colleague, taunting that there is always someone like Ronan, an applicant who judges a magically engineered dummy only by appearance and talks foolishly. The silver-haired professor agrees, noting that if the applicant comes from a distant country town, they might not understand. In reality, the dummy is equipped with defensive capabilities to withstand aura and possesses rapid regeneration. It is a product of precise magical engineering. The golden-haired professor continues, mentioning that even the so-called genius Schliffen barely left a mark on such a dummy, and wonders what Ronan plans to show. Both laugh at their own humor. However, Krava hears every word clearly and feels they are being disrespectful, especially with Ronan standing right in front of them. He wonders what might happen if Ronan proves them wrong. Ronan takes his stance, shocking Krava with the sheer vigor he exudes at such a young age. With precise speed and control, Ronan strikes the dummy, leaving even Navy Rose watching in disbelief. After completing the strike, he sheaths his sword and calmly tells the professors that his demonstration is finished. The silver-haired professor remarks that they never expected him to do just a single strike. The golden-haired professor adds that it's difficult to grade such a performance and glances at Krava for his opinion, but is shocked to see Krava staring at Ronan with awe. In the next instant, Navy Rose leaps onto the table, charging toward Ronan. Just as her attack is about to strike his neck, she abruptly stops. Ronan glares at her coldly and comments that she scared him. Navy Rose regains her composure and asks about Ronan's identity, then inquires where he learned such exceptional swordsmanship. Standing there fearlessly, Ronan asks Navy Rose what she means by her question. Navy Rose tells him to wait, and that she will rephrase it. She then asks if Ronan actually saw her movements. Ronan compliments her, noting that it must have been difficult to unsheath her sword and swing it 3 times in that instant. Navy Rose confirms that she did indeed strike 3 times, just like the arrogant strike Ronan had shown earlier. Ronan is startled by her observation. Navy Rose continues, asking if he really thinks she wouldn't notice his deliberate, slowed-down last strike. She points out that he had adjusted his strength as a courtesy, but she finds it very arrogant. Then she asks if he has forgotten where he is standing right now. Krava silently observes, while the other professors watch in shock. Ronan considers explaining that he only slowed the strike to prevent his sword from breaking, but judging by Navy Rose's expression, it seems she wouldn't believe him even if he did. Finally, Navy Rose stops her aggressive stance and unsheaths her sword, telling Ronan that she will remember him. Confused, Ronan watches as she walks back to her seat, but glances over her shoulder, warning that she will personally teach him someday. Ronan feels a shiver of apprehension, realizing that this is only the beginning. She returns to her seat, while Krava observes thoughtfully, interpreting her behavior as her staking a claim on Ronan as her future disciple. Ronan thinks he will need to stay alert. Krava then compliments Ronan on his performance and explains that they will conclude his test with a common question, which has no single correct answer. He may respond as he feels is best. Krava asks why Ronan came to Philion to study martial arts. Reflecting on his past regrets, Ronan replies that he came to avoid having any regrets. That is what he wants to learn first. Krava is impressed by his answer and, after a moment, instructs Ronan to leave safely. As Ronan closes the door, Krava repeats his answer to himself, contemplating how he might guide someone like him. The golden-haired professor, sweating nervously, asks Krava what is happening, noting that first Navy Rose, and now the headmaster, are acting unusually. He wonders if Ronan performed some extraordinary trick. Krava replies that while that might be one way to describe it, he believes it is simply Ronin's talent. Both the golden-haired and silver-haired professors are shocked to realize that the magically engineered dummy was not only damaged, but has ceased regenerating entirely. Outside the room, Ronin reflects on Nebiro's movements during the test. Even with his past experience, he realizes that he might not be able to guarantee victory against her. He acknowledges that, despite the challenges he has faced, encountering Nebiro shows that he still has a long way to go. Smiling, he feels that coming to Philion was the right decision, confident that he will learn a great deal here. After that, Ronin heads toward the written test. With a month of preparation behind him, he assumed it would be easy, or at least, that's what he thought. The reality, however, was far different. He finds himself sitting on the ground, convinced he is doomed. Despair washes over him as he thinks his life is destined for failure. Seeing Ronin in this state, Maria comments that she never imagined he wouldn't be able to answer even half of the test. Turning to his cell, she asks why this happened, though she is certain she had instructed Ronin to review the materials in his bag. Estelle nervously explains that Ronin had taken the study materials and moved his bag, but in his intense focus, he completely forgot about it. He admits it is all his fault and claims that this wouldn't have happened if he had reminded Ronin. Hearing this, Maria is amazed and exclaims, asking if such a fool truly exists. Maria then asks if Ronin has been like this ever since the test ended, and especially when the announcement for the results approached. Grabbing both of Ronin's hands, she lifts them up and tells him to stop grumbling and get up. She reassures him that everything will be fine, since the practical test carries more weight, and with Ronin's skills, she is certain he has passed. Suddenly, a magic circle appears in the academy, startling all the applicants. One student shouts that the results have finally arrived. A large board materializes, displaying the names of all students who passed. Estelle and Maria move closer to inspect it. Estelle realizes that it is the list of successful examinees. Maria comments that the results arrived much faster than she expected. Both Estelle and Maria locate their names. Estelle, from the magic department, placed 12th in the practical exam and secured one of the top positions in theory. Maria, from the martial arts department, ranked 9th in both practical and theory. They exchange shocked glances, filled with joy and pride. Maria hugs Estelle happily, celebrating their success, and pats him on the back, noting that he topped the theory test. Estelle, still in disbelief, asks if that's really true. Maria points to the list, confirming it. Although two others share the top spot in theory with Estelle, he still ranks first among them, a remarkable achievement. Overjoyed, Estelle modestly attributes it to luck. Maria then turns to ask about Ronin's rank, only to be stunned. Ronin is standing in full shock, exclaiming that he knew he wouldn't pass. Ronin falls into despair, wondering how someone like him could possibly attend the academy. Maria, shocked by the news, asks if it's really true. Estelle is equally stunned. Maria grabs Ronin's face, opening his eyes, and tells him to stop joking. She asks him to look carefully, insisting that there is no way he could have failed. Suddenly, a flame descends from the sky and strikes the results board, surprising every student present. Maria quickly recognizes it. It's the entrance exam's final cannon fire for each department's salutatorian, known as the Glory Phoenix. The martial arts department's salutatorian is Ronin, ranking first in the practical exam and 5,712 in theory. Ronin, Estelle, and Maria are all stunned. Maria hugs Ronin with excitement, amazed that someone who placed so far down in theory could still become the salutatorian of the martial arts department. Estelle joins in, hugging Ronin tightly and praising his incredible talent. Maria pats him, saying she always knew he was a genius. Ronin laughs awkwardly, remarking that the academy seems to have a good eye for talent. Then a realization strikes him. If he came first, that means Schlieffen must have lost to him. Knowing Schlieffen's prideful personality, Ronin senses that trouble is imminent. His unease grows, and he tenses. Just then, Schlieffen storms toward him, clearly furious, shouting that Ronin came first in the practical exam. Ronin realizes this is exactly how his first encounter with Sword Saint Schlieffen is going to unfold.